Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's good to see everybody. This morning, we're going to be in Daniel. And as you're turning there, I just want to give you a quick reminder that next Sunday, we're having a little pause from our normal preaching sermon series, and we're going to have my friend and guest, Stan Key, who's going to be our revival speaker. He's going to be with us Sunday morning. And then we're going to have how many of you miss Sunday night services from when you were little? I do. I love Sunday night. Was just different and special and fun. Sunday morning, Sunday evening at 6 p.m., Monday evening 6 p.m., Tuesday evening, what time? 6 p.m., and Wednesday evening 6 p.m. So you're not going to want to miss that. Hear a little bit of a different voice than mine. Stan and I go probably 15 years back or so, and I'll never forget when I invited him to come and be a revival speaker in Haiti. And Haiti is, of course, comes from a bit of a French background. They speak, Creole and a little bit of French. Well, Stan, a little bit of his bio was that he was a missionary in France for a number of years, and so he speaks French fluently, and but in French, when you say the name Stan Key, it kind of comes out like stinky. And so, welcome to the platform, everyone, Pastor Stinky. I don't know if that's a good moniker or not, but nonetheless, it's going to be a good time together. Stan is one of the most sanctified men that I know, and it is going to be enriching to us to have him with us. So, Daniel chapter 3 this morning. But before we get into the content of the chapter, we have a little bit of contextualizing to do, because you'll notice that we jumped over a chapter. We didn't do chapter. Now we're going to do chapter 2 in the series. We're not going exactly in chronological order. But if you were to read Daniel chapter 2, it's an incredible story of King Nebuchadnezzar who has a dream. And the dream disturbs him. And he wants one of his court officials, one of his religious leaders, to not only interpret the dream, he wants one of them to tell him the dream, to verify that they actually have supernatural divine insight. It's a bit of a test. And he gets frustrated because none of his guys can tell him the dream. And they go, but there is a guy named Daniel. He can tell you the dream. And so Daniel comes and he tells him the dream. And here's the dream. There was a giant statue. And the statue, its head was made of gold. And after its head, its torso was made of silver. And after its torso, his upper legs were made of iron. And then his feet were iron mixed with clay. So Daniel goes and tells the king this dream. And the king's, wow, you must know the one true God. You know the dream. There's no way you could have known that. And he says, but can you tell me what it means? And he says, yeah, I can tell you what it means. He said, it's a series of kingdoms, all those different parts to the statue. There's a gold part that represents your kingdom, Nebuchadnezzar. Then after that, another kingdom will rise up, the silver part. And that represents a subsequent kingdom. Now we know, looking back, that is the Persians. And then after that, another kingdom will rise up. And we know, again, retrospectively, that's the Greeks. And after that, another kingdom will rise up. Guys, it's just one kingdom after another. This is the nature of human kingdoms. The last one, the Roman kingdom, it says, have feet mixed with clay. And there's one more really important part of the vision. He says, then came a stone that crushed the kingdoms. And that stone, Daniel doesn't say this, but we know, again, because of Jesus in the New Testament, that stone is Christianity. It's a kingdom of God's making. That stone, it says, then takes over the whole world. This kingdom, while human kingdoms rise and fall, while fads and fashions and popular things in our cultures come and go. You remember Laserdisc? All right, I want to do a little age test here. How many of you are of the age that when you were in your car, you played CDs? Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. While you were a teenager. Now, cassette tapes? What was before cassette tapes? 8 tracks. Oh, we have a few of those. Terry, turn the mic up so they can hear. Yeah. And then, how many of you were there before cars even existed? No, I'm just kidding. We know this. Things come and they go. And not only, these are little things, music and cassette tapes. He's talking about human kingdoms. And he says, no, I'm going to set something up that's never going to go away. Now, as we hear that story and we see that vision, we now turn to chapter 3, and that sets the scene for us. So chapter 3, if you're there with me, here's the first verse. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold. Did you notice that? What is it made of? It's made of gold. It's the same material that kingdom in chapter 2, the first one, that's his kingdom. And notice, it's made entirely of gold. It's not gold. He doesn't make the image. It's not gold, silver, iron, and iron. It's just gold. What is he doing? He's saying, I don't like God's plan, and I'm going to take it a different direction here. I want my kingdom to last forever. Guys, don't fight against the plans of God. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. And some of us know that when we get into these circumstances, we're trying to do something. Here's a great one today. I get some of my best sermon illustrations. Someone gave me a travel mug once that says, be careful, I may use you in my sermon. Right? I was just talking to someone out in the foyer and they said, God sent me to Wellspring today, because they don't usually come here. They should, who I'm talking to. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, I was fixing to go to Broadmoor and there was no parking, so I came over to Wellspring. I said, don't fight against the plans of God, But it's a good example. Bless you, Broadmoor. I love our brethren over there. Don't you love God does different things at different churches, and that's a good thing. It's not a competition in God's economy. But we know we get into these situations in life where we're trying to kick down doors that God has closed. Guys, don't do it. You're going to break your leg. Just step into his plan. Now, here's another thing that we get from this. This series is about holiness. And King Nebuchadnezzar, he's like, no, the whole thing. In other words, I want my kingdom to endure forever. Holiness doesn't have that posture. Holiness isn't about me and my kingdom and my area of control in the world. Holiness is of the heart that says, Lord, put me to use or put me aside. Put me to doing, put me to nothing. Put me first, put me last, right? Nebuchadnezzar's approach should be, bless the name of the Holy One. He knows better than I do. I couldn't find anyone who could tell me my dream, let alone what it means. And here he's telling me what it means. He's obviously superior from me, yet I'm still fighting against. We need to, as a church and also as individuals, we have to be careful with this kind of language. My ministry, my small group, my area, my church. The Lord has corrected me. So I work really hard not to use that language. My church, or the church where it's Jesus' church. And the Lord has put me here, and the Lord will take me out of here. And the Lord has put you here, but he could be saying to you, now I want you to go to Kazakhstan and be a missionary. Put me to doing, put me to nothing. So he builds this image. I also want to point out, actually, let me read more of the passage here. And then there's another aspect at play here I want to draw on that's King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold. It's important that it's gold. It's not made of a cheap, flimsy substance. It's beautiful, it's shiny, it's alluring, it's wonderful, whose height was 60 cubits, that's about 90 feet tall, and its breadth 6 cubits, so it's 90 feet by 9 feet. So in other words, it's very tall and very skinny. That's all we can really tell from this. And, my preparation time, was this in the shape of King Nebuchadnezzar? Probably not. It may have been some sort of, tribute to one of the Babylonian deities, maybe Marduk, maybe some sort of totem, a long, skinny pole that everyone can see, think the tip of the Empire State Building. So, tall and skinny. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. What is the significance here? He needs to put it in a place where there's room where lots of people, everybody can gather together. He's not going to put it in a place where only a few can gather. He's going to make it very visible. In other words, idols are things that we organize ourselves around. And it also is a callback, the plain of Babylon, to the Tower of Babel story in Genesis 11. Then the king, verse 2, Nebuchadnezzar sent to gather the satraps, the prefects, and the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the justices, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Now we're going to get the list again. Then the satraps, the prefects, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the justices, the magistrates, and all the officials of the province gathered for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Let me pause here for just a moment. You have all these people with authoritative titles. One of the things we know the text is telling us is that there's lots of people and powers in our fallen world that claim authority, and they don't actually have it. Daniel knows all these guys have all these fancy titles, but I know the King of the universe. There's one, Jesus says, all power and authority have been given unto me. We have to, as the people of God, to be able to discern earthly authorities and divine authorities. We're going to build on this more. We're going to keep going. Verse 4, and the herald proclaimed aloud, you are commanded, O peoples, nations, and languages, that when you hear the sound of the horn, the pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe. Did you know bagpipes were in the Bible? Pretty interesting. And every kind of music, you are to fall down and worship the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship shall immediately be cast into a burning, fiery furnace. All right. It's made of gold. Everybody's bowing to this thing. And it's got the best music. Now, I don't know how many people in here are audiophiles or people who love music. How many of you know, here's my test. How many of you know Christopher Cross was in town last week? How many, y'all know who Christopher Cross is, right? You know the song. What is it? Sailing. That's like the only Christopher Cross song I know, right? Okay, so I want to hear from you, a little unconventional for sermon time. I want to hear from you some of your favorite bands. Come on, just hit me with them. And let's keep them relatively clean. We are in church, we want to be sacrilegious. But what are some of your favorite bands? Charlie. I'm just kidding. Rolling Stones. And I think they're still touring, aren't they? Yeah, they roll out on stage. Rolling Stones. I ain't got no satisfaction, says. Eagles are very good. I do like one of my favorite songs is Hotel. It's a terrible song, I know the lyrics. Hotel California, but it's just the way it moves and its melody and its chord structure is just Eagles. How many people like the Eagles? How can you not like the Eagles? And don't forget the Philadelphia Eagles, best football team in the world. All right, Eagles, Rolling Stones. Give me a couple more. Somebody said Chicago. And I have to admit, first service, I talked about Chicago. I'm going to come back and talk about Chicago. And I kind of get a Chicago vibe from the text because Chicago's got a lot of different instruments. Not that they play the bagpipes, but, it's not just your standard rock and roll band. They've got horn parts. And let me hear one more. Metallica. Oh, come on. They timed that. Okay. Now, if you were to go to a concert, you know how usually you have the opener and then you have the headliner, right? And depending on the band and all that, but my first concert I went to was Doobie Brothers opening for Chicago. That's a good one, right? It's a good one. And I think I was 15 or so. And so we get there, Doobie Brothers open, and they sound so good. They sound so good. But now, Doobie Brothers, don't get me wrong, I love Doobie Brothers. They ain't Chicago, right? They come down, it's like, I don't know how it gets any better than that. And Chicago steps up there, and they sound like louder. They are tighter rhythmically, more complex, not just in the textures of their sounds, but unexpected chord changes. It's some of the best, tastiest music that you can find. So what they're saying here, Matt, what does that have to do? This is really good music. And this thing is made of gold. I want to remind us this morning, and listen to me, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with secular music. Not the point. Some secular music, there is something wrong with it. And you use your judgment there. The idols of our world are tasty. They're alluring. They draw us in. If they weren't, we wouldn't be tempted. Now, I thought first service, eggplant. How many people, do you ever notice that people either love or hate eggplant? How many people here love or like eggplant? Let's even go there, right? How many people hate eggplant? It's not like, well, yeah, eggplant. But note, Garden of Eden, Satan doesn't say, hey, Eve, you see this eggplant over here? It's like, yeah, it's disgusting. She's like, ooh, that does look nice, right? That is tasty. There's a couple other times in the book of Revelation, we get the image of a ginormous, really big, tall, beautiful woman. And she's adorned. She's got jewelry on and beautiful hair. And then there's another image of these, what are called demonic locusts. And they come out of the fiery pit. And it says they have flowing hair. Isn't that a weird image? Why? Guys, the idols of our world, there's a reason they're idols. Because they look good. I know people who don't want to be fully Christian, let's say. They don't want to give themselves over to Jesus. Their whole lives, a living sacrifice. You can have some of me, but not simply because of this, the appetites of the flesh. I love this stuff. I love to party. I love to fulfill those desires. And this text in Daniel 3 is reminding us that when idols are set up, it is not easy to do what Daniel and his friends did. And they go, I'm not going to do it. Some of us just would rather go to the party and ask for forgiveness later because it feels good and it's tasty. And they say, no. And I have to, last night in our neighborhood, we've got 1 million kids in our neighborhood. And it's great, right, Ben? It's great. And we did this neighborhood end of summer. Aren't you so glad summer's finally over? End of summer party. And we got loads of pizza, Costco pizza. And Matt Ayers should never eat pizza. It makes me feel terrible. Just terrible. And even right now in this moment, I'm hurting because I ate that stupid pizza last night, man. I had like 5 pieces of pepperoni pizza. And Stacy's looking at side-eyeing me like he's going to be hurting tonight. And I was hurting so bad I couldn't sleep. Guys, this is the simplest, most basic object lesson. And we need reminded of it. It ain't worth it. It's just not worth it. It tastes good going down, but it destroys us. And pizza is like a benign physical object lesson. The things that we give ourselves over to because they feel good in the moment, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. And Daniel knows this. He knows this. Beautiful, alluring. Now, they have to deny worship of this deity, this idol. No, we're not. And it's one thing to suffer because you don't get to be a part of the party. Guys, being a Christian means that we don't party with the world. We party different than the world does. We don't party at night. We come in here on Sunday mornings and remember that our King is risen and he lives forever, and we have awesome, enduring fellowship together. And that no matter what, you're going through it, I'm going through it with you. Not, I'll go through it with you as long as I get to party. Remember, guys, this story, Daniel 3, this is just a primitive carnal party. That's all it is. I remember in Haiti, thank you for always indulging my Haiti stories. I didn't understand voodoo ceremonies for the longest time. You know, you'd hear them at night. You're laying down in bed and you're hearing the drums and the music, and it would go all night long, and it's keeping you awake. And let me make a side comment. Be careful when you're tired. Being tired is dangerous. I remember the first time I went skiing, my mom said, if you get tired, stop, be careful, it could be fatal. And I thought, you know what, that kind of applies. We lose judgment when we're tired. We see things differently when we're tired. Anyway, Satan wants us up. He wants us to lose sleep. You're up all night because of this. And I started asking questions. I was like, why do the drums beat all night in the music? Isn't it a secret society thing where you just do a little ritual or a spell and then the demon comes and you serve it? And when they described to me the voodoo ceremony of a ritual, it's just a primitive dance party. There's alcohol and there's all kinds of other stuff and there's all kinds of other stuff. Guys, this is nothing new, man. Daniel 3 is Vegas. It's what it is. It's primitive Vegas. And I will tell you, I don't want to be a killjoy, man. It's not for us. It's just not for us. Some of the things that the world does, and the reason it's not for us is not because God doesn't want to have a good time. It's because it kills us. It's poison. It's destructive. And it's tempting. It looks good. But the party's going to end one day. And guys, I want to go to heaven. I want to have substantial relationships that aren't built around filling carnal appetites and having a good time. I want to have relationships that endure through suffering, real friendship, and real communion. So, it's shiny. Holiness. We have to not be deceived. When things that look good come along, we have to use Holy Spirit wisdom to go, yeah, I know it looks good, but I've read the scriptures, and even though it feels good and you're promising me a lot, the answer is going to have to be no. All right, so let's keep going here in our text. Not only, in the next section, not only do they not get to party, you know what I mean by party, right? Not only do they not get to be a part of everything, not only is it beautiful, everyone else is doing it. A point that I missed. Our mothers told us, it must be okay. Come on, Pastor, it can't be that harmful. Why? Everybody's doing it. Guys, peer pressure does not stop when we grow up. I'm learning this. Everybody's doing it. What do you mean? It must be okay. Don't be deceived. So not only do they not get to participate in the things that everybody else is participating, but when they don't do it, up rises these tattletales, right? And so this is where we get verse 7 and following. Let's go to verse 8. Therefore, at the time, a certain Chaldeans came forward, maliciously accused the Jews. They declared to King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that every man who hears the sound of the horn, the pipe, the lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, every kind of music, shall bow down and worship. Whoever does not, you remember you said that? Yes. He says, there are certain Jews, verse 12, whom you have appointed over affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It doesn't mention Daniel. These men, O king, pay no attention to you. They don't serve your gods or worship the golden image that you've set up. Tattletales. So it's one thing to deny oneself. To go, not for me. I'm not going to participate in that. But that's not where the difficulty ends. The difficulty also ends with the fact that our standing on principle and being loyal to Jesus will also solicit persecution from the outside. It'll solicit people turning against us. It'll solicit us being, who wants to be singled out? Look at those guys over there. It's like, Lord, not only are we making a sacrifice by not being a part of the party, you're also causing the world to come and turn against me. And this is where things get especially difficult. The fiery furnace. Verse 13. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in furious rage, commanded that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought. So they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said to them, is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image that I have set up? Now, if you are ready, when you hear the sound of the horn, the pipe, the lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, every kind of music, to fall down and worship the image that I have made, well and good. But if you do not worship, you shall immediately be cast into the burning fiery furnace, who is the God who will deliver you out of my hands. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. I love this answer. You don't owe everyone an explanation. You just don't. That's tough, because when people come at us, why are you? None of your business, right? That's an interesting thing. I think that there are times in the Christian life when we're standing on principle and we know we're doing the right thing and people are coming at us. You just keep your peace. I don't owe you an answer. I answer to him. So Jesus says something that's haunting. He says, if you don't acknowledge me in front of men, I won't acknowledge you in front of my Father. We are always taken to a time as we follow Jesus. He says, come follow me. Live the way that I live. Let me live my life out through you. As we're walking in that path of sanctification and we're growing in faith, where persecution will come and we will have to speak and we will have to declare plainly to whom our alliance rests. Where is your loyalty? You can't serve two masters. So the story continues to the best part. I don't owe you an answer. Verse 17, if this be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. This is tough. They say, God can save us from this if he wants to. But if he doesn't, we're still going to be faithful. Jesus hangs on the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me? And God the Father does not come down and rescue him from that situation. He doesn't save him from hanging on the cross. And Jesus is saying, if you save me or not, I'm going to be faithful to you. The story continues. Nebuchadnezzar, filled with fury, and the expression of his face was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And he ordered the furnace heated 7 times more than it was usually heated. All right, let me comment on something here. Nebuchadnezzar is an absolute roller coaster of a man, right? Chapter 1, he's up here. At the end of the chapter, he's down here. And then chapter 2, he's up here. And then he goes down here. And Daniel and his friends, their position with him shifts constantly. They're either like persona non grata, you're my worst enemies, or you're my very best friends, right? Up and down and up and down. The life of holiness is distinctly steady. Daniel and his friends do not ride the roller coaster of Babylonian idolatry. If your spiritual life is up and down and up and down and up and down and not steady, one major reason that could be is because you've got too many idols, and one is too many. I remember when I was coming through Bible college, Lord, what's your plan for my life? What do you want me to do? He says, you will teach my word. And so, okay, that's my calling. Maybe I'm going to be a pastor, but Lord, please not that. Please not a pastor. And like, that's a part of the fiery furnace, you know. It's like, what if I make you a pastor? Are you going to trust me? It's like, well, okay. But so I'm walking along that journey, and I really sense that God is leading me to get a PhD, because I want to be not a pastor, I want to be a Bible scholar. And there was a reason for that. Bible scholars, my professors at college, had such an impact on me. They were teaching me the depth of the Word of God, and changed the Lord through His sanctifying grace used that academic study to order my thoughts and to get me on, and like, it was so transforming to see the depth of the scriptures. And I thought, Lord, that's a great, and so I walked that path, and for the longest time, I just kept thinking, if I could just get those letters after my name. And one thing I always really, really wanted was to be called Doctor. And now, like, nobody calls me that. And like, I see, you know what you call someone who graduates from medical school with a D-? Doctor. I'm looking at a doctor. I know she didn't get a D- though. If I could just be called doctor, if I could just have those letters, if I could just have that knowledge, and you do the work, and you put in the time, and you put in the effort, and you break your brain, and you study, and you break the bank, and you pay the bills, and you sacrifice everything to the deity, the goddess of the academy, you know. And you finally get the degree, you finally have the dissertation published, and you're invited to speak at stuff. It's like, yes, I have arrived. But then as you try to move forward, you realize there are more obstacles. In other words, up and down. Yes, we got it. Another obstacle. Yes, we got it. And I, finally got the PhD, and I'm sitting on the airplane on my way back from England, and like, here was my thought. Is this it? What's next? What's next? And I thought, wait a minute, this is the exact same situation I was in high school, when I thought if I could just break the high school cross-country record, I'd be satisfied. And it wasn't a day before I was like, is this it? What's next? And I thought, okay, if I could just get Stacy White to marry me, then, and I got that, yes. And now I'm like, is this it? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Oh, come on. She's booing me. No, if I could just have kids, and they could be great and good at sports, then, guys, idols, 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 idols. Up and down and up and down and up and down. This is what idols do. Because no record, no letters, no title, no resume, no spouse, no child, no grandchild, can do for you what Jesus can do. That's why he says, no idols. Don't join in on everybody bowing down to their kids and their grandkids because they are going to be left wanting. You can't. There's only one person who walked out of the grave, and that's Jesus. No idolatry. None. So, the up and down Nebuchadnezzar. If your spiritual life is up and down, you're probably putting your faith maybe in the wrong stuff. All right, we've come to what I think is the most fun part. In the fire. In the fire. So, verse 19. Nebuchadnezzar was filled with fury. Expression of his face was changed. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times more than it was usually heated. Let me comment on that here really quickly. If you've got Jesus in you, there's nothing in this world that can beat you. He could have made it 50 times hotter. Jesus wins every single time. There is one of the simplest messages, and Miranda and Sumner and the band, there's another in the fire, man, that's greater is he who is in you. There is no trial that you can face that he can't see you through. Not one. And I think of one of my greatest fears, and this is a part of being they're bound as they move into the fire. And then as they say, wait a minute, there's not 3 in there, there's 4 in there, and they're moving around. We bound those guys up, right? Suffering sets you free from your fears. He says, you scared of that? Guess what? I'm going to make you go through it. And when you depend on me, you'll see there's nothing to be afraid of because I am with you. One of my worst fears as a child was being suffocated in a hot car. Isn't that a bad one? You ever seen the one skit, I'm afraid of being buried alive in a box. Stop it! Y'all don't know that skit? Okay, yeah. One walks into a therapist's office and she says, I need therapy. He says, what for? She says, I have this phobia. What's the phobia? Being buried alive in a box. He says, well, stop. Stop what? Stop being afraid of it. And she goes, I can't just stop. And he says, well, why not? She said, well, because I have this. He goes, all right, well, stop it or I'll bury you alive in a box. Okay, all right. You guys. I say you guys when I don't want to say y'all. So where does he send me? Haiti. Heat. I'm scared of heat, y'all. I'm scared of it. But then as you get older, you're guys, your fears mature with you, right? And you get married and you're like, what's the worst thing? I can never lose this spouse. And as my health starts I could never lose. I'm not the same if I lose my health. What if I can't play guitar anymore? But then kids come along and this one will absolutely kick you. What if something happens to my kids? Or what if the stock market crashes and I got no money to feed anybody with? As we grow and mature, our fears grow with us. And this passage reminds us that no matter how hot the fire, no matter how great the fear is, if he is in you and with you, you can overcome all of it. And he walks you into that suffering. He goes, you're scared of this? You scared? Let's go into it. And I'm going to stand right here with you. And they're free. The bonds, they're bound. Verse 21, these men were bound in their cloaks and their tunics, their hats, their other garments, and they were thrown into the burning fiery furnace because the king's order was urgent and the furnace overheated. The flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You will be able to go through things the world can't go through. It's not because you're better than them or because you're stronger than them. It's because you got Jesus. All of these 3 men, they fell bound. Verse 24, then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished. He rose up in haste. Why are you astonished? God said he'd do it. He declared to his counselor, didn't we cast these 3 men bound into the fire? And they answered and said to the king, true. Just think of Satan. Didn't we think that if we gave them a brain tumor that they would abandon God? They're running around praising him. What's going on? Didn't you think if we took their kids and money away that they would denounce him? And they're more devout than they were before it happened. What's happening? He said, I see 4 men. That's what happened. Jesus showed up. God, you have an idol on this side of the passage. And God says, don't create anything in my image. Because you can't contain me in an image. In other words, I can't be seen. I'm bigger than any image. And then they enter into the suffering, into the fiery furnace, and he's walking around with them. What does that tell us? God is most plainly revealed to us when we suffer. Now, wait. Where else do we see that in Scripture, Matt? Right there. Where do we see the love of God on plain display? Where do we see the heart of God, who God is in the midst of suffering? When we enter in, this is the special revelation of God, this book right here. And the vast majority of this book, look at the book of Psalms just as an example, is written in response to suffering. God speaks the loudest, the plainest, the clearest, makes himself known without question when we're suffering. So we shouldn't avoid it. We shouldn't necessarily seek it out, but we should welcome it when it comes, because we know that we're going to get to know him in a deeper and more profound way than we've ever known him. The clarity of God in the midst of, there's a 4th in the fire. We'll keep going. I see 4 men unbound, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the appearance of the 4th is like the Son of God. We are so prone to self-pity. When the suffering comes, he doesn't say, I'm going to be there with you. He says, it's not going to hurt you. I'm going to preserve you. I am going to protect you. I'm going to prevent that wave from crashing on you. You're going to have suffering. Christians, if you are rooted in me and you know me and you believe in the resurrection, that when the worst thing imaginable can happen, you're going to be able to function, move around, thrive, and be set free in the midst of your suffering. It's the power of God for salvation. They're moving around. Nebuchadnezzar came near to the door of the burning fiery furnace. He declared, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here. And they came out of the fire. The fire doesn't last forever, guys. There's an end. Some of y'all are in a fire right now, and God is with you, and he's walking with you, and he's protecting you, and you're going to come out. Doesn't last forever. The satraps, the prefects, the governors, the king's counselors gathered together and saw that the fire had not had any power over the bodies of those men. The hair of their heads was not singed, their cloaks were not harmed, and no smell of fire had come upon them. It's like they weren't even in there. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him and set aside the king's command and yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own. Therefore I make a decree. Any people, nation, or language that speaks anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be torn limb from limb. I'm not sure this is the outcome we want. And their house is laid in ruins, for there's no other God who is able to rescue in this way. Isn't this strange? New laws are made to glorify Jesus because these ones refused to sacrifice to an idol. And because they went through suffering together. This is the stuff that changes the world. The other thing I want to point out is that Nebuchadnezzar is like, worship me or die. And then he changes his mind and he's like, worship God, Yahweh, Jesus, the God of Israel, or die, right? So his mind has changed, but he hasn't changed. God doesn't say worship me or die. He says, I'd like for you to come home. And if you decide you don't want that, I'll honor it. The world likes to try to tell us what we believe about hell. You can't talk about the fiery furnace without talking about hell, right? And what the world will say about hell is inaccurate. You remember the story of Jesus? Jesus tells about the rich man and Lazarus. It's a hard one. Lazarus is this rich guy, there's a rich man, and Lazarus is this poor man, and he's begging, and the rich man refuses to give anything to the poor guy, and so he dies, and he goes to hell. And then Lazarus, the poor man, dies, and he's devout, and he goes to heaven. And the rich man, he's in hell, and he says, will you please, he's talking to Abraham. It's a weird story, I know. Track with me. He says, let me just go to my family and tell them how bad it is down here, so that they change their ways and they don't end up down here with me. Notice, he doesn't say, take me out of here. He says, let me go warn my family. And Abraham says, no. It's not because God is mean. He says, because those who are unrepentant, even if they see the dead living and walking around and talking, it won't be enough to convince them that God is good. It won't be enough. In other words, if God can't convince them, you're not convincing them. God does not force himself on people. We have to remember this, guys. Pastor's heart here. I know we all have family members that are like, Lord, they're not with you. They don't love you. They're not worshiping you. They're lost. We want them to know you. And appear to them in a dream. And can't you just intervene? Yes, he can. But he doesn't force himself on anybody. He gives everyone the freedom to choose. He's not Nebuchadnezzar. Thank God. He says, come home. And if God can't convince him, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying stop trying. I'm saying don't beat yourself up. God invites us home. He says, come on. But if you don't want to come, that's your decision. All right, what's our takeaways for today? First, be willing to say, put me aside. Of course, be willing to say, put me to work. I think most of us are fine with going, yeah, God, I'll do that. I'll go to the prison. I'll give some money and I'll feed the poor and I'll be a part of that ministry. The hard thing is when our identities get wrapped up in that stuff and people applaud us and we think it's ours. And then he goes, hey, give it back. This is mine. Take ministry and here's the other, this hard is I have aging children, I'm not daddy anymore. Doesn't this stink, guys? Where they don't want to crawl up in your lap anymore but I'm so glad that God has other people. It is not just me, that I can even in a way be put aside in my own kid's life for God to put someone else in who can do something in their life that I can't do. Praise God. Put me to use, put me aside. We have to be willing to let go of things and say, all right, Lord, this clearly isn't for me in this season. So put me first, put me last. The second thing I'd say from this text, be aware of deception. The power of the world is strong and it's alluring. It is tasty and it's beautiful and it's awesome. And notice not just the great music that's like, oh man, this music's so good, but it's distracting and it's loud. Be discerning about what is a distraction in your spiritual life. What is that you think is a good thing that looks and sounds really good and maybe making your life easier, but it's really pulling you away from God. Be careful of it. Be careful of it. The other thing I would say is don't ride the roller coaster. Get off the roller coaster. Trust in the triune God. He is steady and good. While the world is doing this with the latest technologies and doing this with the latest presidents and doing this with the latest political parties and the latest legislation and all the latest stuff, our house is built on the rock. We are steady. Lastly, don't avoid suffering. In the midst of suffering, he's setting you free. I'm afraid of death. Hey, let's do that then together. Let's see what that looks like. He'll walk you right out of that grave. I'm afraid of cancer. You don't have to be it. Hey, guys, this is one of the best parts about being pastor. I can stand here in front of you and say, you don't got to be scared of cancer. You don't have to be afraid of death. He won. Man, if I don't know how to get an amen out of that, Miss Wanda, I don't know what else to do. Man, I don't know what else to do. There's nothing to be afraid of.